Brandon, welcome to the Colorado Food Magazine. We're here with Brandon Ho. He's with I Heart Mac and Cheese. He's the business development manager, or you got to get the revenue going side. And we're here to just talk about your story. You're the second person we're here doing it. First one was with Boutran, the CEO. You're the business development guy. But you have a unique story. What I want to tell people about that you didn't have to come over to the food side. I love, once again, the story you told me about your parents escaping communist Vietnam, waiting in the Philippines, and we'll get through that. But and you're a chemical engineer, and here you are. I know there's chemicals back there and those processes and stuff like that, but let's talk about you. Where'd you grow up, and what is your relationship to food, and why are you here?
Yeah, so I grew up in Broomfield, Colorado, born and raised. Like you said, my parents escaped Vietnam, and firstborn generation here. And, growing up, my parents were always focused on education. And, I've always been a math and science guy. And, chemistry was my favorite subject. And, cooking is
Chemistry.
chemistry, yeah, but more on the art side,
We'll have to go into the first and second law of thermodynamics. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but it sounds fancy.
First law of thermodynamics. I got that right in my pocket right over here. That's neat. But so I kind of grew up, got a degree in chemical engineering, came out, decided to get a job in biomedical devices. So I was like in the R&D lab tinkering on devices.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely.
What company?
It was called Terumo BCT. So it's located over in Lakewood, Colorado.
So you graduated from CU Boulder with a chemical engineering degree. You went to work at a biochemical place.
Yep.
Okay, but before we go down that path, I want to talk about your parents, because that sets the foundation for the future. That's what we're trying to talk to. Our vision statement is to educate and elevate the Hispanic community across a multi-generational spectrum. And part of that is showing the foundation of education, why it's important. And I'm not saying you have to have a college degree, but be educated, speak English, so we can communicate across all cultural barriers. And that way if you don't want to go into the food, then you go be a chemical engineer, aerospace engineer, whatever you want to do. But education sets up a solid foundation to climb that summit. So let's talk about your parents. What did they imbue in you, and how do they see what you're doing now?
Well, the funny story is that, like, my dad, once he escaped Vietnam on a boat, he had to go to the Philippines. And actually, like, food has always been, part of the equation. My dad actually got food poisoning in the Philippines. He actually almost died because of it.
Oh, really?
And for that reason, he wanted to, be able to create food for people that are clean and ready and good to eat, and never want that to happen to anybody else. So actually, when he came to America, that's what he kind of started to do. He actually became a chef. Yeah.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, I did. This is fast. I missed this part of the conversation. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he actually opened and closed a couple restaurants. He went through that entrepreneurial phase where, he failed a lot of times, but then he learned a lot because of it. So, like, when it comes to, like, the foundation of education, he really focuses on learning and wanting and continually learning so that you're growing to become a better version of yourself. Whether it's going through school, learning about chemical engineering so that you can gain those skills to do something cool in life.
So what did you, that's right, I didn't know you became a chef. You kind of grew up in the restaurant industry then?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, so that makes kind of sense a little bit more.
And yeah, like growing up, I didn't really understand how much you actually loved food, because like living at home, I've always eaten like Asian food, and me as a kid, I was like, oh, I want to go out, eat burgers and stuff like that, but my dad's like, oh, we don't have money to, but like I can cook for you. And now that I'm older, I do miss those home cooked meals. He cooks great Vietnamese food.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I think all memories, we all talk about when talking about Vu, Mario, myself, we all have these great memories of food around the family and the parents cooking. I mean, food breaks down all barriers. And that's what I love about what we're doing, is we're trying to break down a lot of barriers and show that the Hispanic community, that's a good stereotype, is known as the hardest working people on the planet. We're trying to channel that into education and processes and elevating them. So what So what made you go to be a chemical engineer?
Honestly, like, I found a knack for it. And I had some great mentors in high school. One of my favorite teachers was a chemistry teacher. And he kind of like showed me the ropes. So I was like, all right, this is something I want to do. The path I wanted to take. And then in college, I found a great group of friends within that engineering degree. So then, that kind of got me started.
So you surrounded yourself with good people.
Exactly.
How important is that for people growing up?
I think community is probably one of the most important things because it helps build that foundation, not only with family, but helping to create your morals and your ethics.
Oh, your whole who you are, psychological profile.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so you graduated there, you're working. How'd you find I Heart Mac and Cheese or VU?
Honestly, so that path I kind of took. So I first started off tinkering in the lab. There's actually a prototype that's actually out. That's actually out in the market right now from Taruma, BC.
You did it?
It's 30 years. Well, I don't want to say I did it, but I played a...
You contributed to the team.
Exactly.
What device is that?
I don't know what it is called right
Is it new?
So it's a blood separation device. It's supposed to be this next generation device that is portable, easy to use, and then more affordable.
Oh, really? Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, find that out, send it to us, and we'll have Mario talk about it and stuff like that. So, well, that's pretty fascinating. So that device is there out there, and then so you're working, and then
I realized I was like, is that all there is to life? Like a 9-to-5 job, and you find a nice girl, you marry, create a family, and continue to live this lifestyle. Like I want to do even cooler things. So, that's why I kind of wanted to take the entrepreneurial route. And before I started with the VU on the restaurants and I Heart Mac and Cheese, I joined a startup at a processing facility.
what type?
A processing facility.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was like manufacturing.
Okay.
I spent 1 to 2 years there, but then, worked my butt off.
You're like, snoozer.
No. It was actually one of the hardest things that
really?
I ever done. I had to do night shift. I did like 8 p.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Doing whatever it took to get the job done. But the number one thing that was missing was the community. So how I met VU and how I got into the restaurants was that I was kind of done with the processing facility. I literally DM'd VU on Instagram, and I was actually in the middle of a car accident. And I was just like, oh, hey, he posted about I Heart Mac and Cheese. It was like, hey, you need some help?
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. He's like, I'll come pick you up. And then he drove me down to the first I Heart Mac and Cheese in Highlands Ranch. One thing led to another, and here I am, learning about business development and growing Full Circle Restaurant Group to 50 restaurants over the next 5 years.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty ambitious schedule, but good for you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, and that was the missing piece was VU, the mentorship and that community aspect, into trying to create something bigger for the community.
What about VU made you follow him?
I think that 3 things that stood out was courage. VU has a great way of like showing people around him that they can do their, like he's very...
Not do it for them, but like you can give them hope in their head.
Exactly. So courage. He has a very high level of integrity. He does things very selflessly. And it's more about giving value to the people around him and to the community. And then 3, commit. He is 200% committed to everything that he does, and he always executes.
But how'd you find him on Instagram? What?
So I'm actually friends with his little brother.
Okay.
He's also in chemical engineering, and he both created that mindset shift towards
Okay, that's cool. What's the best part about working here? I know you're on camera, so you have to say all the good stuff, but
yeah, the best thing about working here in the restaurant business,
right,
is honestly like providing food for people. Like, there's no easier way to put a smile on a person's face but through food.
They're great food.
Great conversation.
Yeah, exactly. What's the hardest part?
The hardest part,
Not the worst part, but the hardest part.
the hardest part about this business is, you know, honestly, leadership and people. You know, like it's a very underappreciated job where, you know, it's a lot of hard work.
Right.
And it's being able to empower the next leader in your group. You know, like we're all about, you know, growing from the people from the bottom up. So like we have kids who are 14, 15 years old, and we treat them like a peer. We want them to be able to manage a restaurant on their own.
No, so your employees that are young, you're talking to them about providing that hope, that mentorship, that foundation to lead for future. Oh, that's a great.
So like actually our manager in Highlands Ranch, he's only 20 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and we want him to become a millionaire by the age of 25.
Does he think like that? Does he know that's possible?
I think he's starting to get it, you know, like at first he was like, we're like, what are your goals when you turn 25? He's like, I want to make 100K. We're like, we want you to think even bigger than that. How about put an extra zero at the end and say, let's have you make $1 million. It's not about making the money though. It's about building that mindset.
Okay, very fair.
To knowing that it's possible.
What books do you read to help your mindset?
So the most important book that I've read so far is the How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that is such a great book that teaches you how to communicate with other people, especially in the restaurant business.
Okay. What do you listen to for podcasts?
So right now, my biggest person I'm listening to is Hormozy. It's called The Game, and he has a very different mindset.
Remind me to write that down. So, Hermosi,
The Game.
what would you tell a young person, your young person, compared to me, you know, back when I sailed with the dinosaurs, you know, and came down the mountain off with Moses. But what would you tell a young person, you know, 10 years ago, an 18-year-old you from 26? That's still a significant part of your life. That's a big leap mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and just, you know, age-wise. What would you tell a young guy that was not as fortunate as you, didn't have that foundation, that they can change their life? What would you tell him?
Take risks, and you can do it. You know, like it doesn't matter if you fail, because everyone fails in life, and just learn from your mistakes, and find the right people to surround yourself with, mentors that believe in you.
How did you find them as a young man, those mentors?
So how I found them was that, you know, you have to look at people who have already had the skill sets that you want to have. For instance, like if you want to learn how to sell more, find someone who has $1 million in sales at a company. Ask to learn from them, but be able to provide value, right? Like, all right, let's just say like, hey, I want you to like, I love what you're doing, but I want you to, but like, you know, I'll work for you for free. You know, that's actually what I've done for Vu too. You know, like I was like, I don't care what I can learn, but
Just impart that mentality.
Yeah.
You saw the value in Vu, and so you're like, give it to me. I'll do whatever it takes.
whatever it takes.
That's a great attitude.
Yep.
So where did you get that from? Your parents, a mentor, or is it just you?
Yeah, no, I think I got that from my parents. You know, I've always learned the entrepreneurial mindset from my dad. He's always been, though, like, you know, get a degree, get a job, because he doesn't want his children to live a harder life than he ever did.
Yeah.
You know, he always
And
wanted.
he had a hard life. That's amazing. Wow. My hat's off to him. Send him my regards. That's pretty incredible, both you and Vu. That the stories of the first generation, the success you guys are having is just amazing to me, and that's cool. And so,
I agree. Yeah.
what would you have to say to us? What would you tell the Hispanic community, people that want to work here at I Heart Mac and Cheese? What would you tell them? Like, come employ by us, and what's the value proposition that you're going to give to them?
So for me, like I've always never been about the money. You know, it's always about being purpose driven. And I want to first and foremost thank you guys for having me on this podcast, because You know, it's not about the money. The money is kind of like
A byproduct.
you know, like that's what this great country is about, you know, like the movement of money, but more so how to create an impact and change, especially in the Asian and Latino communities. And what I want to tell you guys is, you know, like, live life, be bold, you know, stay true to your intentions, and live life to the fullest.
What if you could describe your life philosophy? What would that be?
My life motto would be, you know, do cool things.
Oh, there you go. Do cool things. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a beautiful thing. Do cool things. And what fits you and who you want to be. Climb the mountain, open the restaurant. You know, whatever you want to do. Lead people. Do cool things. I like it. So, well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.